Good morning. Welcome to your Vinyasa yoga class. So I'm Nina. I think we've got a couple of new people with us today. So we're going to start today laying on our backs. So just come to relaxing on your back. Let the weight of your body just really fall into the floor. Keep your feet about hip width apart, let them fall out. Arms by your side, long palms facing up. And just breathe. Really embrace the feeling of all of your bones falling into the hard floor. And if you have Ujjayi in your breath in your practice, that audible breath constricting the back of your throat, start to incorporate that now. If you'd like to set an intention for your practice today, feel free to do so. We're going to start with some simple head rolls. So on your next exhale, just tilt your face so that you're facing the left side of your room. Gentle stretch along your back of your neck. And then really just rolling the back of your head across the mat, looking over to the right-hand side. Inhaling to center. Exhaling, rolling your head over to the left-hand side. Inhaling to center, rolling over to the right. Just a really gentle stretch along your neck. Inhaling to center. Now here, bend your knees, bring the soles of your feet to the mat. And when we roll our head to the left, we're going to let our knees drop to the right. Really gently here. Inhale to center. Roll your head to the right, your knees to the left. Back to center. We're going to do this 2 more times each side. Just do it with your own breath. It's a really nice, gentle way to start waking up our spine. Maybe you're already feeling a little stretch in your abs. Last inhale. When you're done, just come back to neutral position with your knees bent. So now lengthen out your left leg and bring your right knee in towards you. Grasp on the outside of your shin with your fingers clasped together and just pull that right knee in towards your chest. You may want to pull it out to the right a little bit to avoid your rib cage and then draw it back in more towards your shoulder. Keeping your left leg long and your toes flexed, keeping that leg engaged. Just a nice stretch on that right thigh. One more breath here. Then letting that go, and we'll switch. So lengthening out your right leg, pulling your left knee in towards you, maybe out to the left a little bit to avoid your rib cage. Right leg strong and long, and then really pulling that left knee in towards your shoulder. Now bring both knees in towards your chest. You can grasp around them. If you can grab your elbows, you can. Otherwise, just hold your hands around them and give them a bit of a squeeze. Maybe bring your neck up a little bit, giving the back of your neck a bit of a stretch into a ball. And from here, just holding on to the outsides of your shins, start to rock and roll up, or the backs of your thighs actually, sorry. Rock and roll up your spine a few times. And then just rolling over your feet into your all fours position, your tabletop. So with this, we've got our wrists directly under our shoulders, our knees directly under our hips, and we're going to do some cat-cow stretches. So on your inhale, drop your belly, lift your tailbone and your crown of your head to the sky. Breathing in. On your exhale, reverse, really arching your back towards the sky and pushing away from the mat. Inhale, drop your belly into your cow. Exhale, rounding your spine. We're going to do 2 more each side. Just following your breath. Now coming back to your neutral spine, we're going to do a bit of a wrist warm up. So the first one is, let's just rock our hips back and forth a little bit, shifting the weight to the fronts of our wrists and then back, just kind of giving them a little bit of a different sensation. And then take both your hands, rotate them outwards until your fingertips are facing towards you. You may not be able to get them all the way around, that's fine, as far as you can. And then slowly start to bring your hips backwards so that you're really stretching the fronts of your arms. Just draw your hips back slightly. You may not take very much movement in order to really create a stretch here. I'm already feeling it. Take a breath here. Then letting that go, flip your your hands back around to neutral. And then flip your hands over so that the backs of your hands are facing down towards your mat, and bring them a bit closer into you so that you've not got so much weight on them. This is a bit of a compromised position. And then again, bring your hips back slightly and really feel that stretch along the tops of your forearms. We're all spending a lot of time on our laptops, using our phones, so we need to undo some of that tension that we create in our wrists. Bring your weights forward slightly so that there's a little bit less tension on your wrists. And then one at a time, form a fist with your hands. So do your right fist, your left fist. You might not be able to create a full fist, that's fine. You're just creating the sensation, and you should feel, it feels a very different movement than what you normally do. But it's really good because it's reversing a lot of the other strain that we put. Right, let's flip our hands back over to normal. They may feel a little bit, like a little bit of tension in them, so just kind of roll around, loosen them back out again, maybe shake them out, whatever you need to do. We're going to push back into our first downward facing dog. Before we do that, we need to make sure that we have the proper grip with our fingertips. So really, your hands are kind of like a claw. So really gripping the mat with all of your fingertips, almost to the point that your palm is lifting off of the mat. That is your hasta bandha, your hand grip, and we want to maintain that whenever we're in a position where our hands are down like this. From here, tuck your toes under and just push up your tailbone towards the sky. So first downward facing dog, so you may need to keep your knees bent here. You may also want to just start paddling it out. But remembering that hand grip and really pushing away from the floor with our arms. Pulling your shoulders down away from your ears. And almost imagining that you're pulling your armpits underneath you so that they're facing each other, kind of creating that outward rotation in your upper shoulders. When you're ready and done paddling, let's come to a neutral position with our legs. So everybody bend your knees, tilt your tailbone to the sky, and then start to straighten your legs back out. That will help you create the length in your spine that you're looking for and the curve in your tailbone. Try to pull your heels down towards the mat. They shouldn't really, it's quite difficult to have them reach the mat. If they're reaching the mat quite easily, you may actually be too short in your downward dog. So think about taking it a bit longer. Your downward dog, when you come forward out of it, you're directly into your plank. So that's the distance that you want between your feet and your hands. One more breath here, and then walk your feet forward towards the front of the mat. And take your hands and place them underneath your feet so that your toes, so your backs of your hands are facing down, the soles of your feet are on the palms of your hands. Your toes are kind of giving your wrists a little bit of a tickle. Again, if you need your knees bent here, we're quite early, we haven't warmed up that much, so keep your knees bent. Just gently pull yourself down towards your toes. Focus on keeping your spine long. You'll be feeling a stretch along the back of your hamstrings, maybe along your lower back. And just let your head hang loose. Give it a shake. Give it a no and a yes. And just breathe here. Letting your hands go from underneath your feet. And we're going to just slowly roll up, vertebrae by vertebrae. Our head being the last thing to come up. And let's give ourselves a bit of a shoulder roll at the top. I'm going to face you for this. So bringing your arms up to the sky. You can't see my hands. Grabbing your left wrist with your right hand. So in this position. Inhale to really lengthen up towards the top of the room. And then on your exhale, send your hips to the left and bring your body down to the right-hand side. A really nice side stretch here. Inhaling back to center. Switch your hands. So grabbing your right hand with your left wrist. Inhale, and then on your exhale, send your hips to the right and bring yourself down to the left. Inhale to center. Let's do it one more time each side. So flip your grip. Hips to the left, body down to the right. Imagine that you're between two panes of glass. So you're really just doing a side motion onto the other side, hips to the right, down to the left. Rather than bringing your body forward or back, you're really trying to go just straight down to the side. Perfect. Inhale to center. Come to standing at the top of your mat in your mountain pose. So your feet are together, your big toes are touching, your heels can be together or slightly apart. And really focus, lift up all of your toes and place them all back down one by one. We're really gripping the mat with all of our toes, weight evenly distributed amongst all four corners of our feet. Make sure, maybe rock yourself a little bit forward, back till you get to that neutral position. Zip up your legs, tuck your tailbone under, shoulder blades down, and the crown of your head directly towards the top of the ceiling. This is your mountain pose. It's a really engaged pose. We're going to warm up with a few sun salutations. We'll do the first one slowly to learn the movements, and then we'll go through the next two a bit more rapidly with our breath. In vinyasa, we try and do everything with one breath, an in-breath or an out-breath. So on your inhale, arms up, reaching to the sky, palms facing one another. On your exhale, hinge from your hips, bring your hands through prayer down to the mat in front of you. Your knees may be bent here into your forward fold. On your inhale, straighten your spine and bring it parallel to the mat into your halfway lift. On your exhale, plant your hands by your feet. Step your feet back into a plank position. For this first one, we can bring our knees down to the mat, and then keeping your tailbone tucked under, your spine long, your elbows close in towards your body, your fingertips gripped. You're going to exhale down through your chaturanga. Untuck your toes and then lift your chest slightly into your cobra. And then tuck your toes back under and push back into your downward facing dog. Remember your cues for your downward facing dog. You've got that hand grip. You're really pushing away from the floor, shoulders away from your ears, tailbone towards the sky, pulling your heels down towards the mat. Take a breath here. On your next inhale, look forward. Walk your feet towards the front of the mat. Inhale to your halfway lift again, that straight spine parallel to the mat. Exhale, forward fold, and inhale all the way back up to standing. Bring your hands to prayer in your chest. So that's our sun salutation. We're actually going to do 3 more in time with our breath. If you want to stay using your knees, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we're going to move. I'll be demonstrating the full chaturangas from a plank. So inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or jump back to plank, down through your chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Maybe you want to sigh it out. Inhale. On your next inhale, looking forward, stepping or jumping towards the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, up to standing. Bring your hands down through prayer. 1 more time, 2 more times. Inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or jump back, plank, down through your chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. If you're practicing your full chaturanga, the exhale for so when you jump back to plank and down through your chaturanga, that's all one exhale. And then you inhale when you come into your upward facing dog or cobra. So if you're practicing your full chaturanga, try and do it with those breath movements. Inhale, looking forward, bending your knees, step or jump to the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, back up to standing. Bring your hands down through prayer. 1 more time. Inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, jump back through plank, down through your chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Well done. Start to feel a bit warmer now. On your next inhale, looking forward, bending your knees, jumping forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, back up to standing. Wonderful. So I hope we're all feeling a bit warmer now. We're now going to start flowing through some sequences. So this time to enter into our, we're going to do a vinyasa B through the chair pose. So on your inhale, bend your knees, drop your bum back, sweep your arms up overhead into your chair pose. On your exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or jump back, down through your chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. On this inhale, bring your right foot forward between your hands. Drop your left foot back down to the mat at a 45-degree angle and raise up into your warrior 1. In your warrior 1, your hips are facing towards the front of your mat, trying to keep them square towards the front of your mat. Your right knee is bent, your knee directly over your ankle. Your pelvis is tucked under, maybe a slight arch in your upper back, and you're really pushing back through that straight leg, trying to get the outer edge of your left foot down towards the mat. On your inhale, let's open out to warrior 2. With warrior 2, you might want to lengthen your stance a little bit. And this time your hips are more facing towards the long side of your mat. So maybe bring your hands to your hips, bring them to the long side of the mat. Make sure that your shoulders are positioned directly over your hips. And then push your knee back out towards the right and arms straight up and parallel to the mat. Your gaze is forward over your front middle finger. And don't forget you're really pushing on the outside edge of that back foot. Straighten your front leg, and we're going to move into our Trikonasana. So imagine someone's pulling on that right hand and pulling you as far forward as they can. And when you can't go any further forward, We're going to windmill our right arm down and our left arm up towards the sky. Your right hand can be pushing against your calf. You might be a little bit higher. You might be all the way to the mat. The idea here, though, is the opening. It's really opening your chest up towards the ceiling and your gaze up towards that raised hand. Feeling a really nice twist and stretch along the left-hand side. Look down to your front foot and then raise yourself back up into a reverse Trikonasana. So bringing your right hand overhead and just letting your left arm fall long behind you along that left thigh. And breathing into that right side body. From here, come up, bring your hands to your hips. Bump your back foot up, your left foot up, and position your feet almost as if they're on railroad tracks. Hips facing towards the front of to the front of your mat. Take your right hand and place it on your lower back and bring your left arm straight up to the sky. Now keeping your spine long, inhale to lengthen your spine, and then hinging from your hips, keeping your hips straight, start to bend forward. When you can't go any further, you're going to bring your left hand to the outside of your right foot and use that leverage to twist open to the right hand side. You can use a block here, if you have one, to place your hand on to help you be a bit higher and give you a bit more twist. And if you're twisted all the way to the right hand wall, you can bring your right arm up. Really think about pulling your right hip back, your left hip forward to keep that straightening in your hips. Wonderful. Looking down, placing your hands on the mat and just stepping back to your downward facing dog. We're going to flush that out with a vinyasa. So inhale to plank, exhale chaturanga, inhale upward facing dog, exhale downward facing dog. Now the same on the other side. So bring your left foot forward, let your right heel drop to the mat in a 45-degree angle, raising up to your warrior one. Again, really straight back leg, pushing down on that outside edge, hips facing towards the top of the mat, left knee directly over left ankle, pelvis tucked under. Gaze slightly up. Now let's open out to our warrior two. You may want to lengthen your stride a little bit. Your hips are more towards the left-hand side of your mat. Push your right knee out. Arms parallel to the mat. Gazing over that front middle finger. Really thinking about an outward rotation of your thighs will help create a lot of balance and stability here. All of these poses are very engaging of your muscles. Straighten your front leg. Start leaning forward as if someone's pulling your left hand as far forward as they can to the front of the room. And then when you can't reach any further, bring your left arm down and your right arm up overhead. Really thinking about that opening towards the ceiling, gazing up towards that upper hand. Looking down towards your front foot, raising yourself back up and reversing your Trikonasana. Bringing your left arm up overhead. Just letting your right hand slide along your thigh. Bring your hands to your hips. Bump your right foot up this time. Feet back on those railroad tracks, hips facing forward. And then this time bring your left hand to your lower back, your right arm straight up towards the sky. So we're always thinking about keeping this balance in our hips. We don't want one sticking out versus the other. Lengthening, inhaling to lengthen, and on the exhale, starting to hinge forward from your hips. Coming down as far as you can, and then bringing your right hand to the outside of your left foot and twisting yourself open to the left-hand side. If your chest is over all the way to the left, you can raise your left arm up to the sky and your gaze slightly upwards. Breathing here. And then bringing both hands down, pushing back into your downward facing dog. Let's flush it out with a vinyasa again. Come forward to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths here. If at any point you need child's pose, down like this, you're welcome to take it. Otherwise, your downward dog is your resting pose. Inhale, looking forward, bending your knees, step or jump towards the front of the mat. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale to your forward fold. Inhale through your chair pose, and then come back up to standing. Amazing. Let's flow again. Inhale into your chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your hands, step or jump back into your down through your chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. This time bringing your right foot forward and then dropping your left knee down to the mat, untucking your toes and raising your arms up into your equestrian pose. So here, really think about shifting your weight forward a little bit and maybe bringing your right foot forward a little bit so that you feel a really good stretch on that left hip. Maybe a slight arch in your back. From here, we're going to twist to the right-hand side. So bringing your left elbow to the outside of your right knee. Bringing your palms to touch and using that leverage to twist yourself open to the right-hand side. If you're feeling really warmed up, you're welcome to come up onto your back foot and make it a twisted lunge, even a bind, open your arms out, whatever feels good to you. Untwist and bringing your palms of your hands to the mat, both of your hands on the inside of your right foot, and walk your right foot out to the right-hand side a little bit. We're going to come into our lizard pose. So this right here might be enough for you already. You might be feeling the stretch within your hip. What you really want to make sure that you're doing is keeping that right knee tucked in towards you. You're not letting it flare out to the right-hand side. If you'd like to lower down onto your forearms or onto a block, you're welcome to do so. You'll feel a bit of a deeper stretch within your hip. And just breathe into it. We're going to stay here for a few breaths to really feel that stretch. If you're on a block, moving that out of the way. Bringing your right foot in so that it's back in the center line of your mat and your body. And then shifting your weight back so that your hips are coming over your bent back knee and your front leg is straightening out and pointing those front toes up towards the ceiling. So we're pivoting into a hamstring stretch here. So you should be feeling a stretch along the back of your hamstring. Keeping your spine long and then maybe bending down towards that straightened leg. If you are practicing splits, this is a good opportunity to try and get into that position. So to do that, you would just bring your right leg forward, start moving your left leg back, keeping your hips parallel rather than twisting to the side, and seeing how deeply you can get into your split. You can also place a block under your front thigh to help you create lift. Otherwise, just keep focusing on your half split position. To come out of your half split or your split, be very careful because your hamstring is quite compromised. So just slowly start to bring that right foot forward, or right foot back towards you. If you're in your half split, just bring your hips forward so that you're bending onto your right knee. From here, lift your left foot back up into a lunge position and then come back down. Come back into your downward facing dog. Let's do the same on the other side. So this time bringing your left foot forward into that equestrian pose, dropping your right knee to the mat, lifting your body up, and really pushing your weight forward so that you feel that stretch in your right hip flexor. Test out how it feels when your toes are untucked versus your toes being tucked. You can do whichever one feels good to you. From here, bring your hands to prayer in front of you. We're going to twist over to the left-hand side. So bringing your left elbow this time to the outside, bringing your right elbow to the outside of your left knee and twisting yourself open here. Again, you can untuck your back foot to get into a twisted lunge. You can open your arms. You could potentially even bind if that's there for you. Breathing here. Then untwisting, bringing both of your hands to the right side of your left foot. Maybe walking your left foot out more towards the side of the mat. Remembering that we're keeping this knee tucked in towards us. We're not letting it flare out into our lizard pose. You can stay up here. You can lower down onto your forearms. Just really feeling that stretch along the inner thighs and along the hip flexors. Breathing here. Using your breath to get deeper. Coming back up onto your hands if you're not already. Walking your left foot in towards the center line. And then drawing your hips back, straightening out that left leg, flexing the toes, and starting to fold over that front straight leg, giving yourself a really good hamstring stretch. If you want to play around with split on this side, you're welcome to. You might find that one side is actually a bit more open than the other. Quite early in the morning. We haven't done much movement yet, so it might not be the best time of day to get into a full split. Breathing into that, whatever sensations that you're feeling. And really making sure you're keeping your legs engaged. You're not just falling into your hips here. Coming out of whatever position that you're in carefully, taking care of your hamstrings. And then again, pushing back, coming up onto your right toes, pushing back into your downward facing dog. Flushing it out with a vinyasa. Inhale to plank, exhale chaturanga, inhale upward facing dog, exhale downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths here. Inhale, looking forward, bending your knees, step or jump to the front of the mat. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, chair pose. Exhale, come back up to standing. We're going to start our next sequence with a balance. So I'm going to face you for this, but you should be just facing the front of your mat. Really grounding your feet into the mat. Shifting your weight into your left foot. We're going to come into tree pose. So bending your right knee and bringing the sole of your right foot to the inside of your right thigh or your right calf if you don't have as much balance, or you can even have your toes touching the mat. Any of these are fine. You really want to push your heel and your thigh together. Whoop. And that's what's going to give you the balance here. Keep your eyes on one spot, maybe your gaze slightly up ahead of you, and you can raise your arms to the sky, opening up the branches of your tree if you like to. Just breathing here. Don't forget to breathe. Now from here, without bringing your foot down towards the mat, bring your knee in towards the center line, and then just reach your right foot back so that you end up in a high lunge position. Just coming into a high lunge here. Really keeping your legs engaged. Bring your hands to the mat and then sweep your left foot, so really kind of keeping your weight in your arms, sweep your left foot up towards the sky. And you can open out your hip here. And if you want, you can come all the way over, make sure you don't knock anything over, into a wild thing. So letting your leg fall all the way to the floor and reaching up above you. From here, we're going to transition into a side plank. So if you're in your wild thing, your arms are already in the right position. You just need to bring your feet so that they are stacked on top of one another into a side plank. Keeping your left arm up towards the ceiling. Breathing here. From here, transitioning into your normal plank position and flushing it out with a vinyasa. So exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, looking forward, stepping or jumping towards the front of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, all the way up to standing. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So this time, shifting all of your weight to your right foot, bending your left knee and bringing the sole of the foot to the inside of your right thigh or calf, or just on the inside, touching the floor. Make sure you're breathing. Really push your thigh and your heel in towards one another, tailbone tucked under, abs engaged, your drishti slightly above your eye line. Breathing here. Bringing your hands back to prayer if they're not already, keeping that knee bent and reaching your foot back towards the back of your mat and falling into your high lunge. Keeping your tailbone tucked under, really pushing away through that back heel. From here, bring your hands down towards the mat, keeping the weight in your hands and your left toes. Sweep your right foot up towards the sky, opening out your hip to the right hand side. Falling all the way over into wild thing, reaching long behind you. Bit of a back bend, bit of a hip opener. And then from here, transitioning into your side plank. So stacking your feet above one another. Your wrist should be directly under your shoulder. Your right arm reaching up towards the sky. Breathing here. We're going to hold it for 2 more breaths. And then coming down into your plank position. Exhaling. We're going to exhale actually all the way down to the mat onto a count of 5, using our chaturanga push-up. So really keeping your elbows tucked in towards you. Let's go down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done. You can bring your arms long behind you. Bring your left cheek to the mat. And just relax for a second. onto your back. We're going to go into some back bends. So bringing the soles of your feet in towards your bum. If you reach down, you should be able to tickle the backs of your ankles. And we're going to go into a bridge pose. So from here, really digging your heels down and letting that raise your spine up off of the mat, all the way up to your cervical spine. Bringing your arms, tucking your shoulder blades underneath you so that you can grasp your hands. And then pushing your hands and your forearms and your upper arms into the mat in order to create you lift. Really think about making sure the inner edges of your feet are grounding into the mat so that your knees aren't flailing out. And breathing here. If you want a more restorative pose, you can always put a block under your sacrum and just relax here. But we're going to do the more active version. So letting your hands go and then slowly rolling your spine back down. We're going to do this 2 more times. If you feel like you're already ready for wheel, you're welcome to go into that. I'm going to demonstrate the bridge 1 more time, and perhaps I'll demonstrate it with the block for anyone who wants that for the future. So again, pushing down through your heels, lifting your hips up towards the sky, tucking your shoulder blades under, and if you were to use a block, you could take the long side or the short side and place it directly under your sacrum. And this is a really restorative back bend. Breathing into here, letting your arms go and slowly rolling down. Now if you're ready for wheel, our entry point for wheel is quite the same, except our hands are going to be beside our ears, our fingers pointing towards our toes, our forearms pointing backwards. On your inhale, first, let's inhale, lift our hips up and come to the crown of our head. And then on your next inhale, push up from the floor, raising yourself up into your wheel. Really making sure that you're not letting your knees flare out and that they're parallel. Breathing here. And then with control, slowly lowering back down your spine. And then taking your hips to the wide part of your mat and just letting them rock from side to side. Releasing some of that work we just did. Don't hug your knees in just yet. First, let's just neutralize our spine. Now you can grab behind your shins or even wrap your hands all the way around your legs and tuck into a ball and give yourself a hug. Well done. From here, rock and roll up and down your spine just to come to a seated position, and then turn yourself around so that you're facing the long end of your mat again. I'm going to face you for this. So we're going to just do a couple of forward folds. So take your right leg, bend the knee, and bring the sole of your right foot into your left thigh. Inhale to lengthen your spine. Twist your body so that it's over that long left leg. Your left leg is really engaged, your toes are flexed. From here, you can bring your arms up overhead, or you can just start to, if you've got good control in your spine, you don't necessarily need to, and start to fold forward over that left leg. Walking your hands forward and gripping behind the ball of the foot, really pulling those toes back towards you. You have to keep your leg engaged here and your spine long. The idea is more to pull the crown of your head towards your toes than it is to get to your forehead towards your knee. My forehead is actually like past my knee already. So you really want to create that length in your spine. Breathing into this. Letting that go, slowly walking yourself back up. We're going to go actually straight into a twist. So taking that right foot, placing it on the outside of your left knee, bringing your right hand behind you, left arm up to the ceiling, and then bringing that left elbow to the outside of the right knee and twisting over to the right hand side. Inhaling to lengthen the spine, exhaling to twist. Breathing here. Using those inhales to lengthen, the exhales to twist, keeping your toe flexed. Okay, untwisting and just doing a slight bend to the other side. Nothing too dramatic to let that go. Bringing both legs straight. This time we're going to tuck our left, we're going to bring the sole of our left foot into our right thigh. Same sensations here, twisting your body over your right leg, really engaging that right leg and flexing those toes. On your inhale, lengthening your spine. On your exhale, folding forward. If you can touch your toes, you really want to be focusing on bringing the ball of your foot back towards you. If you're super flexible here, you want to engage your leg to the point that your heel actually comes off the floor, and that's your challenge. And that will help you create even more length. Keeping that leg engaged, walking yourself back up. Bringing the sole of your left foot to the outside of your right knee. Your left hand just behind your hips. Your right arm to the sky. Inhale to lengthen, bringing your right elbow to the outside of your left knee and twisting yourself over to the left hand side. Breathing here. Using your inhales to lengthen, your exhales to twist. Letting that go and just giving yourself a little bit of a bend to the other side. Great, and then for our final forward fold, let's have both of our feet out straight in front of us. Inhale to lengthen your spine, and on your exhale, start folding forward over those two straight engaged legs. Really pulling yourself forward. You can have your hands gripping your feet. You can maybe have your two fingers gripping your big toe and using that to pull yourself towards your, pull the crown of your head towards your toes. But the focus here is really on keeping the spine long. Breathing into it, legs engaged. And then slowly walking yourself back up. Excellent. We're going to finish off with an inversion of your choice. So you can come to lying on your back. I'll show you the options. You don't want to move your head around while you're in them. So if you're just looking for a restorative pose, you can just go into what we call dead bug. So just keeping your legs up straight as if you're standing on the ceiling and just letting the blood flow here. Otherwise, let's come up into shoulder stand. If you have headstand in your practice, you're welcome to do that. To come up into shoulder stand, you're going to use a bit of momentum to bring your hips up over towards your head. And then bringing the palms of your hands to your lower back, walking your elbows in as close as you can towards each other to give you a stable base. And then really pushing the balls of your feet towards the ceiling. This reversal of blood flow is super energizing. And just breathing here. Really letting your toes drop towards the floor behind you. If they don't reach all the way, that's fine. Just keep yourself supporting your lower back. Bending your knees, bringing them to your forehead, maybe out towards your ears into ear pressure pose. And then with control, rolling yourself down along your spine, keeping your hands on your lower back or using your arms against the mat as a break as you come down, lowering your legs all the way down. Bring the palms of your hands underneath you, so palms against the mat, but bring your hands just underneath your bum. And then using your elbows just to prop you up a little bit, bringing your chest towards the ceiling into fish pose. Letting your head just continue to drop back towards the mat. And then lowering down, letting all of that go and coming into our Savasana. So starting in the same, ending in the same position that we started in, with your legs slightly apart, your feet relaxed, your arms away from your body, palms up. And just embracing the feeling of your weight against the mat again. Maybe it feels a little bit different. Coming back to that intention that you set at the beginning of practice. Letting your breathing go back to its natural form. And I'm going to leave you here for 1 minute. Starting to bring the attention back to your mat. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Maybe taking a full body stretch. And then bringing your knees in towards your chest, giving yourself a hug, and rolling over to your right hand side. And when you're ready, pushing yourself up into your seated position, cross-legged or on your knees. Just taking a moment. Thank you very much for joining me in this practice today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.